What's going on, everyone? Good morning and welcome to the new season gaming Bitcast. It is an early Sunday morning, especially for our new friend Travis, which we'll get to, of course. But I hope everyone's doing well. Looking forward to kind of explaining some of the changes we're making around here and getting to go through it today with this excellent panel we have. So first things first, let me introduce the guest and we'll talk about a couple things. So, guest, I should say. So, me, Mr. Porsche Power, or whatever Travis called me last night. What was it? The rapper.
Beautiful.
So, yes, I'm still here, as well as my partner in crime, Mr. Dan Rodriguez. Good morning, sir.
I'm here, man. I'm ready to do this. Got all my stuff out right before the show. Feeling good. Let's go. It's early. Right. It's super early.
Yeah, which we can't complain about because it's early. It's a couple hours for Travis.
I think I don't even know what 8 o'clock looks like after. Or 7. Gee,
but if you're a regular listener or a viewer and joining us right now live in the chat, Travis, you know him well, I believe. Most of our community knows him well. Ran a fire team chat over at IGN with Destin. Has been part of the Last Word and some of the things that Cog and the guys over at Iron Lords have done. Did an industry perspectives with him recently, our Halo roundtable. So I think you're very familiar with him. But he is joining our panel permanently as we look to kind of realign what we're doing with the show and take it in a different direction, which I'll speak about in just a moment. But Travis, man, good to have you.
Thank you, McClunky. It's great to be here on Seasoned Gaming, my favorite video game cooking website.
That's what we aim for, man. That's what we aim for.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hey, if we can get the cooking audience, we'll be
huge. It's a huge market.
Yeah. You just, something clicked as you said that. I need to capitalize on the SEO for the cooking market with
absolutely,
with the
site.
Yeah.
I can start doing it from my kitchen.
There you go. Yeah. A little apron on. Yep.
Yeah, at the very least, you can get the ads for all the cooking services on Season Gaming.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And joining us for the first time, a friend of the show, someone I've talked to and respect in the industry, the managing editor of Console Creatures. Bobby, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you guys. I know I've met Ains, I've spoken to him online, but the other two I'm just getting to know. But it's nice to see you guys.
Excellent. Yeah, good to have you, man. So
Console Creatures is also my favorite video game pet buying site.
There you go. Capitalize on that dog market, man.
We have a stuffed animal coming to work. What's it? Build-A-Bear? Yeah, we got something coming.
Build-A-Bear. That's a great product integration opportunity. Let me tell you.
There you go. Jack, good morning, guys who are here nice and early with us. Good to see you. So real quick, for anyone who catches this later or obviously listens to us on podcast services, a couple things we wanted to talk about with Bitcast. So obviously we moved the live show time, but if you're listening later, that obviously doesn't impact you. But we are going to be live every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. British Standard Time going forward. So if you want to join us live and maybe Saturday kind of midday didn't work out for you, hopefully you can come chat with us on Sunday morning. So part of the reason we're doing that is it just kind of works out better for everyone in terms of where the show lines up. We talked to Travis, and his schedule worked out better there. And we are also looking to kind of adjust the show a little bit. So as we're always looking to do something kind of unique here at Season Gaming, as anyone who listens to us knows. And, what we started to notice, especially since the pandemic began, right, being completely honest with you, is there's just a lot of new podcasts. There's a lot of gaming shows, a lot of gaming podcasts that have kind of popped up since we started doing the show. 4.5 years ago, I think it is now. So we wanted to kind of separate ourselves a little bit. And so what we're really going to do is, instead of just having Dan and I and really kind of searching out guests from around the Twitter space and social media space every week, we're going to really focus on having a dedicated panel. And so Travis is the first part of that and looking to move to a permanent 4-person panel probably in the future. But we're also going to realign to be more kind of industry focused topics, right? So rather than going just through the news, which obviously you can find on our site on a daily basis anyway, we're going to talk about kind of bigger topics, things that impact the industry, whatever's kind of more pressing that week. Hopefully have more developer interviews and studio type things as well. So we hope you kind of like it. We're obviously always open to feedback. Leave us a comment, hit it in the chat. But this is the direction we're going. So hope you like it. Hope you take the journey with us, and really looking forward to getting into it. So, anything to add, guys?
To the future. Let's do this.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Vogel, Nix, Jordan, Fat Boy, AKW. Good to see you guys, man. Graham, good morning. All right, guys. So we'll still kind of touch on what we're currently playing. I think we'll keep this segment pretty short, generally speaking. But, you know, there can be some interesting things that we're playing, especially if we're allowed to speak about them. So Jordan, looking at the chat. Travis, you've been playing Flight Sim, man.
Yeah, I'm playing a flight sim on the Xbox Series X recently, which is awesome. It is under embargo, because it's a review copy, but I'm allowed to talk about that game a little bit, which I think most people have played on Xbox Series X. It runs at 30 FPS, but other than that, it performs pretty well from my experience. And I'm also playing it on the new my new Thrustmaster flight stick. So
Nice.
It's been a pretty interesting experience so far. But this is one of those games I never got around with PC. My PC setup, it kind of takes a while to boot everything up and get it working with that setup. So it's just console's a little bit more convenient for this sort of game, especially such a dense game to get into.
Yeah.
There's just lots of barriers of entry to playing this game. It's like, it's like taking night classes. It's like a whole separate hobby you're taking on to learn how to fly a plane in this game. So been really enjoying that so far. I'm still awful. I could not land the plane yet, but we'll get there eventually. So plenty of time there. And then the other game I'm playing is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which is coming out on Tuesday. I don't think I'm allowed to say anything about this one, but I am playing it. I can confirm that. And yeah, if you like the Ace Attorney games like I do, I'm a huge fan.
Oh, are you? I've never played them.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're so good. So this is why I love reviewing games, because it makes you play games you never would have normally made time for.
Sure.
And my first Phoenix Wright game was a game I was reviewing. I just got assigned it randomly when I was working at a different outlet, and I fell in love. I was like, holy, how have I not played this? And after playing that game, I went back and I played all the previous entries that came out on the Game Boy Advance or whatever it was, and now I'm like a hardcore Ace Attorney fan. So if you value awesome storytelling and great writing, it's top game for that. So I'm really enjoying that. But yeah, I'm playing that game, and it comes out on Tuesday, and I'll be able to talk about it after that. But I'm very addicted to those games, and the Chronicles package is 2 games combined, so it's actually like 50 hours of content. So I'm not through it at all yet, but enjoying it so far.
Okay. Is that brand new, or is this like a remake?
It is brand new in the Western markets. It came out only in Japanese, and has not had any English releases. So this is a brand new localization. But I think the way Westerners have played it so far is through fan translations, which aren't very good usually, and obviously require a certain type of setup to get that to work. But yeah, so it's a brand new game for fans like myself that have played all of the other entries that have released in the West.
Okay, cool, very cool. I may be lying a little bit. I want to check it out. I don't know if I'll have time, but you speak so highly of it, it makes me want to actually check it out. So
I recommend it, man. I really do.
Cool. Bobby, you been playing anything good, man?
I got a couple things, yeah. So I have a couple games under embargo. So I'm doing an Eldest Souls review that should be out, I believe, this week. Just trying to wrap up The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I finished it for review, but I'm not I try to be completionist, so I'm trying to get all the hard pieces, making sure I have all the upgrades, making sure Link has max rupees. Basically, I'm trying to finish the game I never finished over a decade ago. But yeah, that's kind of my thing right now. There's a couple other things, like I'm also doing a flight sim review as well, but we really can't talk about it.
Okay, fair enough.
But they're fantastic. I've been just flying over my parents' house in Greece, doing a couple of things in Paris. It's so much fun on console. I'm actually impressed how they translated that whole system onto the consoles.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's been fantastic this week, just trying to catch up with all these games that are coming out. There's a consistent stream of new titles every week, and it's like, what do you want to play? Like, that's what the number question I asked myself was like, what do you want to play on your free time, and what can you do while you're reviewing games?
Yeah, it's a challenge.
How are you enjoying the Legend of Zelda? I actually reviewed that game for IGN, so I have a horse in this race, I guess.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the motion controls in 2011. I mean, they weren't as precise as they are on the Joy-Cons. I'm finding, but the transition to the
controls.
I do a little bit of both. So, like, I prefer the button scheme. I always prefer buttons. I always think it's more intuitive for me as a console gamer. I mean, I have a PC, but console's always been where my heart belongs, and I think it's been great. The only thing I don't enjoy is just the fact that it's still not the most engaging Zelda. I still think Breath of the Wild kind of set the stage for what the future of the series should be. But the problem is, it's like a 10-year-old game. So like they fixed a lot of the problems that I had about a decade ago, and it's been a little bit better the second time around.
Gotcha.
And then there's just one other thing I have to say is like for mobile games, I'm doing Fantasian. I don't know if you guys have heard of Fantasian, but it's that new game. It's the latest game from the creator of Final Fantasy. It's an Apple Arcade exclusive.
Okay.
It's basically Final Fantasy with a new name. But it's beautiful. It's one of the most gorgeous mobile games I've ever seen. A lot of the backgrounds are dioramas that they created for the game, and they filmed them, and then I guess they put the designs of the characters over these dioramas, and it's just one of the most gorgeous looking mobile games I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. Excellent. I think I saw some articles about that because of how unique the way they were doing the environments were.
Yeah, it looks great on the iPad. That's where I've been playing it mostly, but like I really wish they would translate that to like a Switch, and it needs to see a bigger audience.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, out of curiosity, Travis, so what did you give Skyward Sword?
I give it an 8.
Okay.
Which our previous reviewer in 2011 gave it a perfect score, 10 out of 10, which would not have been my score in 2011 for sure. But sure. Teach their own. I think the previous reviewer, I don't know the guy, but I think he's a big Nintendo fan. He works at Nintendo now, so.
Okay.
But yeah.
The thing is, though, with these reviews from like 10 years ago, though, right? At the time, I mean, it probably was a perfect game, right? But with everything, with like 10 years later in game development, I mean, now it's just like I would have rated it a 7 if I had to, but because my website doesn't really use review scores, so I mean, what we do is we recommend it or don't recommend it, but if I had to give it a number, I would give it a 7. Just it is a Zelda game; it does a lot of the right things, but the biggest problem is where it does a lot of hand holding, and that's kind of where that's where I have to draw the line. Like you can't just hold their hand the entire 40 hours of the game.
They actually do cut out a lot of the tutorialization that's in the original, which is one of the things I commented on in the review, but there's still like weird wonkiness and stuff that they could have upgraded and didn't. And actually one is really egregious, which is there's a feature where you can instantly go between land and the sky, but the only way Nintendo lets you do it in the game is if you have the amiibo that has the Zelda and the bird.
I have it here. I mean, I haven't even taken it out of the box. I doubt I will, but it's not that big of an issue just because, I mean, like, really, you have those bird statues everywhere.
That's
You're
true,
always a skip and a throw away from one, and you can literally just... So it depends.
It is interesting though that they have the technology to do that, and they choose to only give it to people who buy their action figure. That's like to me, it's like really like I don't know. Anyway,
I remember reading about that when they announced it. Yeah,
that's a pretty crazy one.
It's a Nintendo thing to do. I mean, definitely you think about it. It's definitely what they do. They do things that don't really make sense.
Yeah, and my review of it is that like obviously the motion controls are better on the Switch. I kind of they're what I remember the Wii feeling like essentially, which is that they work like 80% of the time, but the 20% that they don't, you're just like so furious.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, you know. And then the stick alternative that they give is they turn the right stick into the sword, but you have to kind of flick the stick around in order for the sword to swing. So at least when I was playing with it, it's equally kind of like not accurate, like because you're flicking the stick around. At least on occasion I would mess up, which is also frustrating. And then because you're reallocating the right stick to the sword, it takes away your ability to move the camera. So in order to move the camera, you have to hold down the left bumper and then move the right stick, which means you can't move the camera and swing your sword at the same time. And it's just like it adds more problems to a game that really didn't need it. And the whole, every boss is like, I'm blocking like this. Which way must you swing the sword to hit me? And you have to like swing it from their open, side to hit them. And even if you take out the motion controls, it still has that weird gimmick super baked into the DNA of like every puzzle is, hey, isn't motion controls fun? You know what I mean? Like that's like every boss is like, hey, motion controls.
Because it was a part of the original design, right?
Exactly. And you can't take that out. So even if you switch into the stick mode, you're still basically doing a motion control game. And so those are the problems with it. But the positives are that it's an awesome Zelda game. It has one of the best stories in Zelda. It's got fun dungeons. I think the bosses are bad. A lot of people like the bosses in that game, but
I'm mixed on them. I mean, they're okay. The bosses are okay. It's just like you said, it's just the motion controls. Like it was half baked, I would say at the time. I don't think the Wii was the right console for that. Then the Switch, I could imagine if they did like a Breath of the Wild motion control game, I think it'd be a lot better. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, man, you guys took us on a Zelda train there.
Zelda train.
Zelda's.
Sometimes it happens.
I could talk about it.
Yeah. Graham with
the track, if you will.
Graham with the $2 super track. Ain't his face when Bobby praises Breath of the Wild.
I mean, just to show you. I mean, like I'm always ready. I have them here. I love Zelda.
Ains, are you not a Breath of the Wild guy? You don't like the open world Zelda?
It's not. So Zelda, I grew up with it, of course. So I enjoy some of them. I'm not a huge Zelda fan, but I do appreciate them. But I Breath of the Wild, I've been pretty outspoken on. I do not think that it is the pinnacle of open world games by any account. So,
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's a whole different conversation.
It's the pinnacle of Zelda exploration, I'd say. But like that for me,
it is the only Zelda game with exploration. It's not a very high bar.
I mean, they all have different levels of exploration, but like just the open world, like just the way they allowed you to move from area to area without those loading times, and it set the stage for the future. I think. I mean, it's building the blocks for the next 4 games, I'd say, just because once they find their stride, they're gonna stick with it for a couple games. They'll just change the story.
We'll see what they do in 2. I'm anxious to see if they improve the things I didn't.
I have a lot of theories, but like that's just for another day. I mean, the way they're doing it, you can tell that they're kind of connecting the dots now because they don't want to place it on the timeline, and that's a whole other conversation. That's another podcast.
Yeah. So let me get this. Fat Boy Horror with a £2 super chat. God, I can't land the plane in GTA. No chance in Flight Simulator. Yeah, I'm the same way. I played Flight Sim on PC for a little while, and I don't think I ever landed successfully. So it's going to be interesting.
It's impossible. I have a flight stick, and I couldn't land that thing.
Yeah.
No way.
So Dan, I know we talked yesterday. So and again, kind of under embargo, so can't talk a lot. I've been playing the Ascent for a little while now. Got about 15 or so hours in it on PC, and now I have the Xbox code. So I started playing Xbox last night. There is no cross progression, so you can't carry that over. So I'm going to finish on PC for the review. Well, just stay tuned for the review on that. I can't really say anything, unfortunately. The embargo is like stiff, but the embargo is all the way to the date of release, like the morning of the 29th. So just stay tuned for our review. We'll have that up in the future. But Death's Door. Anyone else playing Death's Door?
I hear everything about it, but I haven't.
Me too.
Like I'm at that point where if it's not on Game Pass, like I just automatically like don't buy it.
Isn't it on Game Pass?
No. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like I used to buy everything on every console.
It's a $20 game on Xbox. Yeah.
Like I'm.
Oh, I
so
thought it
cheap
was
now.
on Game Pass.
No,
guess
I got home.
How much
and
is it? $20.
It's $20.
Oh, that's nothing. I'm
I got home from vacation, and Game Pass is getting to that point this year where it's going crazy, right? So I installed like 7 games when I got home, but Death's Door was the only one I bought. And I started playing it, really enjoying it. Jordan's in the chat. I know he loved it. It's an excellent game. Ryan, who reviewed it for us, gave it a 9, which is the first 9 he's ever actually given in one of his reviews. He's usually more stringent. So yeah, great game. I was maybe 40% of the way through it, and then I got the code for sent to review. So now I'm kind of paused on it until I can get back to it. But yeah, great game.
Yeah, I've been busy with other stuff, but it seems like one of those games that's right up my alley. Like I can't wait. I have it installed. It's on like my group on Xbox priority backlog. Like I gotta play that game. So
I'm literally gonna buy it before the show's over. I mean, this is where we're headed right now. This is what happens every time.
Excited for Tunic, right? And Tunic, as we saw in the demo, is really kind of that classic Zelda feel with some Souls elements. It's exactly what Death's Door is. It feels like a classic Zelda game with Souls elements.
It looks cool. I mean,
the art style is beautiful.
I got basically this week. I just got in. Like, I'll keep mine super short because it's State of Decay 2 again. I don't know what happens.
Wow.
Every month, I will they keep adding stuff. To their Undead Labs credit. I mean, they have kept that game updated and have kept adding stuff. And just stuff that you wouldn't expect. I started playing some of the Daybreak stuff. I finally got to the Heartland stuff, but I've taken this community and I'm at like day 50 something at this point because you can just keep going from different areas to different areas, and it just sucks me in every time. And then that's all I play for like a week or 2 straight, and then I'll go do something else for a little bit, but inevitably I end up coming back to it. It's so good. I can't wait for 3. That's basically all I've been playing this week. And a little
I know we've all said it many times, but knowing what they did with 2 over the past couple of years, right? And as you said, they just continue to expand it, make it better. Series X optimized.
Yep.
I actually installed it a couple weeks ago again to check it out. But knowing now that they're a Microsoft Studio, right, or Xbox Studio, and they have that kind of support and backing and funding, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with 3.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to, really do much because they've added so much since the launch. It's still a little buggy. Maybe work on that a little bit. Maybe update, the graphics a little bit, and but just keep what you have because it's not super overwhelming. You get those games where it's like, there's so much that goes into it that you forget half of the mechanics, and then you're like, oh, I could do that. That's crazy. I didn't know I could. So I think they found that right niche, and it's just I just hope they stay in it, and expand on what they have. But I don't think they have to do as much as everybody thinks. It's a really solid game.
Yeah. All right, guys. So let's transition over to our main topic then, which is kind of an obvious one, but we need to talk about Activision and Blizzard, the allegations against them. What this kind of represents in terms of gaming culture, and what we've seen with other studios, be it Ubisoft, Quantic Dream, the list could go on and on around similar style of allegations and what is generally described, for lack of a better phrase, as frat boy culture. And it's kind of disheartening, right? I think there's been a lot of opinions here. Obviously, people trying to share their opinions on social media never goes over very well because there's just not enough room for context and nuance and other things. But let me give my high level opinion on this. And then, I want to obviously hear what you guys think, and we can kind of go into it a little deeper. But I think one of the big things that comes up when you see these types of allegations, a lot of people saying, well, we should kind of boycott the company's games and stop buying them, right? Stop supporting them. And I think there's a lot of nuance even to that conversation. And then there's also some of the smaller sites I know, such as Season Gaming, though we didn't kind of make this declaration, is we're going to stop covering them until changes are made. Right, there'll be no publication of anything to do with Activision or Blizzard titles. So here's the kind of challenge I see, and I speak from some experience here, being in a big corporation in leadership, having gone through years now of diversity and inclusion training. I mean, all kinds of things, right, that corporations do and good companies do. It's 100%. This is a big problem. This is absolutely not something where it's like, well, we need to see what comes of these allegations and what the evidence is. There's way too much evidence across way too many examples here to try and deny that this isn't a problem and doesn't exist. It's absolutely a problem. It absolutely exists. And some serious changes need to be made. The one challenge, well, not the one, many challenges, but one of the biggest challenges I see from consumer standpoint is when it comes to these types of corporations, especially, sadly, a corporation like Activision that is so top heavy in terms of their funding. I won't go on a rant about Bobby Kotick, though I could. If the simple matter of fact is, if you stop buying the games, stop buying your Call of Duty points, whatever it is, right, Blizzard, etc., at the end of the day, yes, you're going to kind of send a message, but you're also inevitably hurting the developers making those games. Even if you're not trying to, you're going to, because that's how the corporation is going to be structured, right? And the new junior environment artist or whoever may be working on these games, thousands and tens of thousands of people across these corporations. Sadly, and I don't mean this from my perspective, but from these corporations who are poorly run or managed, whatever word you want to use, they are looked at as dispensable, right? Whereas someone like Bobby Kotick is not going to be suddenly out on his, out on welfare benefits, right? So if he goes from $150 million bonus to $148 million bonus, the point you've made has really not had the impact that you hoped it would, is the point. And so where I stand on this, guys, this is an extreme challenge for all of us that we consider, whether you're part of IGN, the biggest media conglomerate in gaming, or smaller sites like Bobby, Console Creatures and Season Gaming. I think there's a responsibility to talk about these things, to shine a spotlight on it, to make sure there's conversation, to not just talk about it for a couple days and then forget it ever happened. I think we need to stay on it, but I don't think there's any kind of golden arrow or golden solution as to how we as consumers and we as publications can directly impact change here. I think it's going to be a long-winded thing, like it is for many kind of long-standing issues in cultural society, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So sorry, guys, that was kind of long-winded, but it's a big topic, and open to anyone wants to kick us off on their thoughts here, or counter anything I said for that matter.
I can talk about it a little. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the IGN reporters that broke this. Joseph Knoop and some other people did a great job covering this stuff. But also, I think the conversation around like whether to support Activision, since that's something you touched on, I'll give my thoughts there. Is that Activision, Blizzard are the people that I guess you should be mad at, and that the lawsuit is directly kind of going for, right? But they're also the victims of the culture, right? Like the people who work there are and are in the Activision offices making the games that you want to boycott are also the people who are having to deal with it. So okay. I kind of agree that it doesn't really help. On the other side of the argument, I see a lot of people online saying like, oh, these are just allegations. Let's wait till the courts kind of hash it out. And I definitely agree with that sentiment. I think innocent until proven guilty is a good idea. I'm glad that it's the law of the land here, because not every country has that. That said, 98% of the time, a case like this is going to settle out of court, specifically because companies don't want to have this stuff brought into the public eye. They don't want to have to go through the books and show that to people publicly in a court. And so if you wait to get the final verdict from court, you're probably going to be waiting forever. Like these things really don't see the light of day most of the time. So I think that if you're going to default to defending someone, you should probably be defending the people that actually are people, not a corporation that doesn't have a face and will probably never actually have this reach the light of day. So I would just encourage people to have empathy and and maybe believe that these allegations are true with the assumption that you probably will never find out for sure. And that there's really no harm in supporting these people because, worst case scenario, it's not true. And Activision probably ends up having to pay a lot of money anyway, and you never really figure it out. So I would just say, I tend to say in this situation, I'm going to assume that there's something shady going on. The state of California is the people suing them, and they've been doing a 2-year investigation that's pretty thorough. So I would say the odds are pretty good that something is amiss here. And then also just on a personal level, I'm sure everyone who has been to like an E3 has dealt with this, but if you go to the Activision booth and you talk to the people there and you meet some of the people in charge, you sort of get what their company's about. I don't mean to say that in a like offensive way, but you kind of get a sense of what their culture is, and I don't know that a lot of people are surprised by this personally.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And you touched on something there I forgot to, which was it is the state of California kind of doing this deep investigation and where the court case will be held. And if you're not too familiar with kind of state laws versus federal laws and workplace conditions, I can guarantee you, because I deal with them on a near weekly basis, that when it comes to state law and workplace conditions and regulations, messing with California is a bad idea. California is extremely stringent, the toughest laws on workplace regulations in the country. And if this investigation turns out that, these allegations are true and they kind of discover more and more about this, Activision will pay a heavy price.
Yeah.
So.
And this is actually not the first time California has taken a stand in the video game industry. A couple of years ago, they did this with the League of Legends creators, Riot Games.
Riot.
It was a very similar situation. So I also think that some of this, the problems in this culture, I don't think that the people at Activision are like evil and that they fostered this intentionally to hurt people. I think it's probably something that happens over time. And I think one of the reasons that it happens in the games industry so often is because we are an extremely young industry. A lot of the people who work in the video games industry are right out of college. There's a lot of alcohol involved in the games industry and development. And I think that frat boy culture happens because a lot of the people who work in the games industry probably are just fresh out of a fraternity, right? And there's that like dating and drinking and all that stuff kind of built in. So I think it's a problem that the games industry needs to reflect on and realize that we are a pretty youthful industry. We have a kind of that retaining the spirit of youth built in us since we are making and playing games. It's sort of built around that. So I think it's not a coincidence that this happens so often in the games industry. And I think it's an opportunity to lift our industry up and do something that a lot of industries have failed to do, which is actually address these problems and fix them before they become like, a part of our DNA that we can't get out. And so I think this has an opportunity to be a really important touchstone in our industry and address some of that stuff that other industries don't have to deal with because they don't have our level of youth. And I live in San Francisco, so I deal with this all the time because this is home of the tech industry, which is exactly the same as the video game industry. It's all really young people who are ambitious and doing great things, but also have a very youthful party culture kind of built in because of the age group of the people that tend to be involved. And it's sort of a unique problem to those industries. So
yeah, good point. And Beast Mode comments, Travis is right, watching Hoag's video. That's Rich Hoag on Twitter, who a good friend of many of us. So if you haven't checked him out, please do. He does some great work. Suit is designed around discrimination, highly like it will be an out-of-court settlement, right? Hope the employees speak up and stick together 100%. So, yeah, so. Bobby, Dan, who wants to touch on this next?
I can jump in. So, I mean, I just like you guys, I'm following it along. My biggest concern is, like Travis said, it's going to be settled out of court. We're not going to hear anything about it. But we need to hear about this because this is not just at Activision. This is at Ubisoft. This is at Quantic Dream. This is at every studio. It's just, this is the one that's coming to light right now. And until we learn the details and understand what's going on as consumers, because this affects us just as much as it affects the workers. I mean, we're the ones who are paying for these people to do these things. we need to understand why it's happening, and they need to be transparent about it from the top to the bottom, because if they don't tell us what's going on, someone else will, and it's going to get worse. It's going to leak out somewhere, and it'll be like a trickle, like a waterfall effect. As it comes down, we're going to start learning the more the gruesome details. And as you've seen already, there are some gruesome details in this lawsuit. And I think the best way to proceed about it is just have a channel open for these executives to, or not even executives, like a third party where they can explain what's happening, what they're proceeding, how it affects everybody. Because I mean, this happens every couple months. You see this every couple months where a new story pops up saying, "Hey, this company's has a handful of allegations happening." And well, how do we address this? Like, the problem is there's never been a solution where they can settle and it improves the company. It just they nip it in the bud for a bit and then it comes back. It's like a Hydra, right? You cut one head off and then it comes back.
Yeah. And
that's kind of where the problem is. Like, you see it every couple of months, and that's why I'm concerned, because you pay these executives hundreds of millions of dollars and they're oblivious to the fact that this is happening in their company.
Yeah. It is shocking to me. Like I said, working for a big company and understanding things I go through on a daily basis in terms of conversation with leadership. Like, I read these allegations, right? And I'm not going to rehash all of them. I think many of us have read these and kind of the horrific scenes that are painted by some of these people that either still work at Blizzard or used to work at Blizzard. I told Dan the other day, it's shocking to someone like me, because I mean, I can tell you definitively at my company, and like I said, big company, big corporation in America, California company, one instance, one statement, one word, if I utter or had done anything even remotely close to this, I would be gone. Yeah. I mean, I'd be gone tomorrow. It wouldn't even be a consideration. There'd be no discussion. I would just be gone. And I'm a 22-year employee in leadership, like I said. So it's shocking to me that, the companies continue to have these things going on. And I do think it ties back to what Travis said around kind of that it's an ingrained culture, right? It's something that's been there for a long time. It speaks to the youth of the people coming out of college, as you said, Travis, and I think it's there. But it is shocking to me that even, the executives, right, who get up and are supposed to be leading these companies effectively, they're not youthful, right? They need to have some sort of better, I guess, control or trickling down, if you will, of their methodologies and beliefs. And it's shocking to me. Dan, not to hold you off one more, but one of the things I have here is the Blizzard co-founder and the former CEO, Mike Moran. He offered a statement a couple days ago. Now, this is a little long, but let me read this, because he basically apologizes for failing women and other kind of people at the company. So, I won't read every word because it is long. It's a full kind of letter, but he said, I've read the full complaint against this. It's very disturbing and difficult to read. He was, like I said, co-founder. He's at Blizzard for 28 years. He tried very hard to create an environment that was safe and welcoming for people of all genders and backgrounds. Knew it was not perfect, but he didn't realize how far they were from that goal. He said, obviously, harassment and discrimination exist, and they're prevalent in our industry, as we're speaking to. It's a responsibility of leadership to keep all employees feeling safe, supported, treated equitably. Obviously, that goes on. He basically says to the Blizzard women who experience any of these things, I am extremely sorry that I failed you. I realize that these are just words, but I want to acknowledge the women who have had awful experiences. I hear you, I believe you, and I'm so sorry I let you down. So at least, he doesn't have the power to make the change now, but he acknowledges it. And I think that's important. And I think more people, leadership across these major companies in the gaming industry need to come out and be very, very clear and very vocal about how the industry needs to change. And I don't know, maybe it's too early. Maybe I don't think it's too early, because we've been hearing about this for a while, as you guys said. But it feels like, in my opinion, not enough leaders are speaking up about it. And I don't know if they're just kind of afraid to touch the topic and don't want to draw that attention towards themselves, and their
Because
companies.
it's still in court, would be my guess.
Yeah, that's true too.
You can't straight up admit that it happened if you're pending a court date for this sort of thing.
But
I mean,
circling back to this Mike's statement, I mean, look at the comments underneath it. You have former employees calling him out and be like, you knew all about this. And I'm with them. Like, I believe in, like, the CEO does know everything. Like, that's their job. They're supposed to know the left, like, they're supposed to know the business from the top to the bottom. They're supposed to know everything that's going on, and their job is to keep the company running. But at the same time, it's like, you know all these things. Why aren't you addressing them? Your job is to steer the ship in the right direction. And it's always profits. Profits control everything. And when the money's flowing in, like, what's to worry about? Go ahead.
I tend to think this is probably something that's happening at the middle manager level. Just based on the description of the events, it sounds like this is something that was happening on the ground floor. And I don't think that's something that CEOs probably are super close to. Like I said, I think this is a youth culture type of thing. So I'm not saying that he didn't know or that the signs weren't there, but I think definitely the leadership at Activision Blizzard has at the very least taken their eye off the ball when it comes to like what's happening with their company. And that is something that they should be held responsible for. But like, you know, was the CEO of like Activision like straight up himself denying people promotions and harassing people? No. Probably not, right? Like it's probably it's probably a culture that sort of like crept into the company and it wasn't squashed out because of, you know, lack of safeguards against that or lack of understanding of what was happening and that sort of stuff. So it's an interesting, you know, I don't know who is to blame, but I wouldn't just go so far as to assume that Mike in his letter is just bald-faced lying about,
it's never white and black like that. There's always like shades of everything. Like there's a lot of things to consider. In this case here, it's always the management. Like the management, they have the freedom to do things, and because the CEO trusts them, like he's their hands off, and that's the way the CEO should be. Like they should guide the ship within reason. They should just understand what's going on with the crew, though, and that's where I think the disconnect is. The CEO doesn't know what's happening all the time with mid management, and that's a lot of companies. I mean, I've worked with a big industry leader in Canada, and luckily, I was very fortunate to have a CEO who was hands-on with not only with the mid-management, but with like the store-level employees where he would visit them and talk to them. And it was a really inspiring CEO that I dealt with. Like he knew the ins and outs. He knew everybody's names. He knew what like their families. He was very hands-on. And that's kind of what I've learned to deal with as a very hands-on CEO who knows the people and the industry well. But like you said, it's a different beast when you're talking about the gaming industry where it's like a college culture, and it's just like it's a very different beast than what everyone knows, because a lot of us only know what we know of the industry through gaming or podcasts or websites, and then there's a few of us like you and I who do speak to people in the studios, and like we have friends who work in these studios, and what they tell us is a lot different than what we're used to.
Yeah. So there's some good comments I want to get to, a couple super chats I want to get to, but Dan, you've been patient as we've kind of rambled on here. Please go ahead and add whatever you'd like.
It's basically, I mean, everything you guys have said is correct. The way I kind of look at the whole thing, I don't think the boycotting is really going to do much of anything. It traditionally doesn't. And that goes for, you know, kind of all aspects, all businesses. Unfortunately, I think this has the potential to swing that maybe because it's such a big company. But you know, I question how many of your day-to-day players, you know, your casual or you know Call of Duty players know anything about this. You know, even you know if they don't follow along with the news. You know, they may never know, you know, unfortunately. It's disgusting. It's horrendous. I mean, it's 2021. I don't understand why these policies aren't in place everywhere. I mean, even smaller companies have these policies. It's just how it is. And unfortunately, you know, apparently Activision just said, no, we're not going to, we're good. It blows my mind, especially when you see it, from companies like Ubisoft in the past. You've seen examples. People have a really hard time learning from others' mistakes. And that, can be said for, again, several industries, including the gaming industry in several facets of it. And it just, I'm usually like, when this news broke, I was just like, I can't believe stuff like this still happens. Like never in my mind that I ever, look at somebody and go, I'm going to, this is how I'm going to act around this person. I mean, it's just like a decent human being wouldn't do this kind of stuff. And it blows my mind that there are this many. I also watched the Richard Hoag's video, and it's a really good watch, and I really recommend anybody that hasn't seen it yet, go check it out. I think it's Hoag Law on YouTube.
Yep.
HOGE.
We'll link it in the comments because it is good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But it was a really interesting viewpoint because we all look at the harassment because that's the prevalent thing. That's what everybody's just like, oh my gosh. But like Travis said, if this comes to a point where they're just going to settle out of court, what happens then? Do we forget about it 2 or 3 months from now and just kind of push it under the bridge? What has Activision been doing? According to them, they've been, this has been going on for 2 years or longer, the investigation, and they have made these changes. Is that true or not? I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to get the actual facts correct. And I totally believe all these allegations. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. It did maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but at that point, while harassment has always, happened and it's always been in the news, it just, I never correlated it with, I guess, the gaming industry. So, seeing this stuff, it kind of makes me sad that, this hobby that I love and these products that are getting put out, these companies have these internal issues that it's just, I want to strangle my mic, because it just makes me so angry. But hopefully they get this settled. Hopefully other companies are proactive from here on out, instead of, it sucks that this is what it takes to get to, these people to start realizing it. And shout out to everybody, at IGN that, that broke this. It's something that needs to be told. And I don't know, man, I'm just kind of disgusted about the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, that what makes me even more frustrated and sad about it, right, is we all follow a lot of people within the industry, developers, publishers, all kinds of people, and I've seen so many that I follow who work at different levels within different companies, all across the industry and have for years, right? Just kind of share stories this week of their own experiences and some of the discrimination and harassment and comments and all these different things they face, and it's disappointing, frustrating, and to Dan's point, it's mind-boggling. Like I just I can't comprehend that happening on a within a company. And I quickly looked up while you're talking, Dan. So Activision-Blizzard is about 10,000 employees, just under. So big company, but by far from the biggest. My company's bigger than that by a substantial margin. And like I said, I mean, the entire company I work for went through a long leadership, diversity, inclusion, and all kinds of things related to behavior of the past few years. And that was just doubling down on prior beliefs from the CEO down, right? That's not like that was the first time we'd done that. It's just shocking to me that we don't have stronger leadership in some of these companies that, kind of in these areas. And I don't know. I think we've said quite a bit here. Let me quickly, before you guys add anything more, let me get these super chats and some of the comments because there's some good comments as well. And suddenly a fly has joined me. I don't know why.
Nice.
So Mo, good morning, Mo. Happy Sunday, everyone. Cheers to you guys, your guests, and everyone watching. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And Fat Boy again with the £5 super chat. Good luck getting Kotick to take responsibility. He denied his own sex case in 2010. Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to go on a rant about Kotick, though we could. I know that Windows Central and Jez over there put out an article about Kotick specifically as CEO.
I think it was
Nick's. Sorry, go ahead, Travis.
No, I think it was 2007. The flight attendant thing, I think was
Yeah. And Kotick, we could have many examples, right? It's bad.
Yeah.
Nick says CEO should have people in place under them where everything related to the company gets cascaded. It's a leadership problem. They failed those employees. It's not like this was an isolated case. 100%. And like I said, I don't want to keep harping on it, but that's the responsibility of leadership. That's when they get cascaded, and it's your responsibility to translate this down to your employees. And if you're not, then you need to be gone. Mitchie dies a lot. Good morning, guys. I'm seeing some new faces in chat, so thank you guys all for coming out. Mitchie dies a lot says, where was HR department in all this? So, I've seen a few other people bring this up, and I've worked directly again with our HR department leadership and in multiple companies actually. I can tell you one of the biggest misnomers, and I mean this genuinely, is that HR is there to protect the employee. In a lot of cases, that's just simply not true. HR is there to protect the company, and sadly, as frustrating as it may be for employees who feel like some of their internal communications, companies have ethics departments, they have obviously human resources and these other things, but sadly, you will not find recourse in those avenues a lot of the time. It really depends on the company, how it's structured, and again, goes back to executive leadership. So from some of the allegations we saw in this is, even though many of these things were brought to HR, HR's, I won't say complicit, but obviously not able to kind of dictate the change that needs to occur.
Didn't they put out like a statement? I think it's I can't remember what his or her name was. The HR representative. They put out a statement, not necessarily denying the stuff, but saying that they're aware of it, and that that I know Activision put out their own that was like, no, this is a lot of this is untrue.
Their statement was pretty
false.
Tone deaf.
Yeah, a little bit. So I mean that's the thing. Where does it go from here is going to be the real question. We can sit here and be disgusted, and we are, about what happened, but they need to move forward, and whatever it is, whatever route that they decide to go, and that's really what's going to dictate, I think, future events and future occurrences like this happening. When you see a company this big, one of the biggest gaming companies, get taken down by, the state of California, which they should be, hopefully people will start paying more attention. I thought that was going to happen when Ubisoft, got kind of, they got dinged for it. But one of the people who was accused of, the alleged sexual harassment was, I think, promoted to another.
He's part of the Assassin's Creed new team,
right? Yeah, and like it just blows my mind that that we're still at this point, where, yes, I mean, I can forgive certain things, but this kind of thing, I mean, you shouldn't be with the company. Period. I mean, that top, it's like, no, you're gone. That shouldn't even be a question. Don't give them the opportunity to step down. You just take them out of the equation. So, I mean, like I said, they're not learning from these things, and we see it repeated over and over and over again. And until that stops, this is going to continue to be a problem. So we see it from all the companies, and it's really unfortunate. So
let me ask you guys this, because we've got a good mix on this panel today, especially with Bobby here as well, around coverage, gaming coverage, right? For publications, outlets, etc., channels. Where do you guys stand on saying we're not going to cover Activision and Blizzard titles until there's meaningful change? Do you think that has any impact whatsoever on driving that change?
No, I don't think it has any meaningful impact. And I also think that there's no way that you can know if there's been meaningful change. I mean,
that's true.
They can settle out of court. They can say that they're changing things, but silence is not necessarily good news, as we've learned. This investigation's been going on for several years, and it wasn't really at the top of anybody's reporting. So let's not forget that this happened because of coverage of Activision and Blizzard, right? Like it's because it's a company you care about, and because a outlet or outlets decided to investigate this and figure out what was going on and get the scoop here. So no, I don't think that's probably the right way to go. I think it's sort of the same question as like, should we boycott? Like you could if you want, personal decision, but you don't know for sure that you're hurting the people that you intend to be with your action there. And I would say the same of like game coverage is we care about this happening because we care about these companies, right? And I don't think that we have to hate all of the properties and we have to hate the company. We have to hate what's happening at it, and we have to feel empathy for the people that it's happening to, and do everything we can to make it better. But I don't think that necessarily. I've seen a lot of like shaming online, right? Like, oh, you're a streamer who plays Warzone. How dare you? Stuff like that. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think that really adds anything to the debate. And I would say kind of the same thing about like not covering the games. Like I get the sentiment of people make their own decisions, but to me personally, I'm looking at this, I say there's probably a lot of other things you could do, including covering these games and maybe continuing the dialogue about what's happening at this company as you do so.
Yes,
would be my recommendation, but everybody makes their own decisions. But for me personally, I don't think it's super useful.
Yeah, and my comment earlier about kind of not stopping coverage, but rather spotlighting these issues is my opinion on, I think, being more effective, right? To your point, the people at IGN that you mentioned earlier and other kind of major outlets that really started to drive with this, that's why we're talking about it, right? If it wasn't covered and kind of brought to the spotlight, we wouldn't be talking about it right now. And let's not forget, as I said, it's a 10,000 employee company, and we don't know how many, I hate the word bad apples, but you know what I mean. How many people are involved in kind of these allegations we've heard. But we also know there's, probably many, many good people, right, at Activision who are disgusted by this as well, who didn't even know any of this was going on, and reading it go, oh God, how is this happening at the company I work for? There's a lot of nuance. And I think, Bobby, you said it earlier, you have to be very careful with drawing black and whites in situations like this. Right. I think we can all agree, the decent people who I think are our chat in this community here with Season Gaming, the decent people, that this is outrageous. We've already covered it. It's unfathomable that this continues to go on. But I agree with you, Travis, that we need to talk about it. We need to spotlight it. We need to make sure we don't stop talking about it and just go on about our business next week and act like this never happened. I think that's important too. But Bobby, where do you stand, man? Did you guys make any comment on this, or have you made any decision around what your outlet is going to cover, talk about, et cetera, with relation to this?
So we did put out a statement. I believe it was Thursday when everything kind of was in the public eye. I mean, I kind of spoke to the team. We all pretty much agree we should probably stop covering Activision, but
okay.
That was just a off the cusp decision. But thinking back now, I'm thinking, these are employees that work for a company that has, like you said, bad apples, even though that's not the term we want to use. The problem is, like we said, there's a lot of good people that work there, and boycotting their games is not going to help them. It's going to hurt them in the long run. It's how they get paid. So I'm trying to find the balance now where I want to not. Basically, I don't want to just not cover them anymore. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to speak to the team that I have that we write with and see if we can just maybe put like a disclaimer at the beginning of our articles, maybe something where it's like, hey, this is what's going on with Activision. Like, we haven't heard much of what's still going on with their current issues, but like, this is what we know. This is what's happened. This is where the situation is. So it's just trying to find, like you said, now trying to find a balance of whether we just stop covering them or just spotlight every article with like a disclaimer at the beginning saying, hey, here's the current Activision-Blizzard situation. And I don't know, it's a fluid situation. It's changing every day. Like, you're getting different allegations every day. You're getting more information, but I don't know. It's hard to decide what to do. I want to see it through. I want to help these employees to the best of my ability, and our readership is pretty loyal, so it's like this seems that they agree with the decision that we've made, but I mean, I don't know if it's the right one. It was the right one a couple days ago, I think, but right now it's hard to say. I want to do more than just write about what's going on.
Yeah, and as I said, right, I don't think there is a golden solution here. It's not like any of us have an answer that's perfect for the situation. That's why I was curious. I don't think it's a bad decision. I don't think it's a wrong decision. And like I said, I don't think anyone is necessarily right. But I do think it's important that groups like ourselves are talking about it and speaking out against it, and making sure that other companies are hearing us, because as I said earlier, I believe it's very important that leadership at other publishers and other big companies, I mean, Activision is huge in the gaming community, as Dan said, and we all know that, but you have the Xboxes, you have the PlayStations, you have the Nintendos, you have Ubisoft and EA, and all these companies that need to be speaking out against this, and I want to see more of that. It's weird to have to say I want to see them speak out against something that seems so bleedingly obvious, right? Like, you shouldn't have to say this is unacceptable. It's society. It should be known that it's unacceptable. But here we are seeing examples of this. And I think it's important that leadership just double down, even if, there's some fantastic companies in the gaming community that I'm sure treat their employees spectacularly. And we see examples of that, right? We see people all the time saying, I love working for this company. That's great. Leadership still needs to be out in front and saying, just to double down on this. Here's what we believe. Here's what we do. And we believe, any allegations, or to your point, Travis, you can't say what Activision is doing because it's allegations, but you can say any allegations like this, should not be welcome, and we should all be speaking out against it.
Yeah, I also I also wanted to sorry. I also wanted to say that I think one thing we need to remember while we look at this is that this isn't why any of us got into this industry. Like, I didn't decide to write for IGN because I wanted to deal with sexual harassment and deep-seated culture issues at corporations. That's not what my goal was. And I would just say, try to have a little bit of empathy for different viewpoints and the way people are dealing with this, because I don't think that this is any of our preferred area that we want to work in. And it's definitely not our areas of expertise, right? Unless you're Hogue Law talking about the ins and outs of the legal proceedings, you're probably not in your element here. So I would just say, if you're mad at some streamer because he's playing a game that's made by Activision, just keep in mind that he started streaming because he likes playing games and doing it on Twitch. He doesn't have a PhD in workplace or legal or any of that stuff. So just realize people are dealing with this in different ways, and I don't think there's a wrong or right way to do it. So try to have empathy and understanding, and don't bully people into treating it a certain way, or not covering Activision, or insisting on covering them, or whatever. Just keep in mind that this is really no one's area of expertise, and certainly no one's passion who got into this industry. And it's something that we're all being forced to think of right now because it's affecting us. But I would just encourage people to have empathy about this thing and realize there's a lot of different ways to look at this, and I don't think any of them are malicious, at least intentionally, trying to be a bad actor here. We're all hoping that this will be resolved in a way that's equitable and moves the industry forward. But there's just it's kind of hard to figure out how to do that, and I think everybody's kind of in the process of processing that. So
that's a very good point, because I think especially in the culture we have today with instant reactions, it's very easy for people to draw these hard lines immediately. And if you're not doing this, you're doing it wrong. So I'm glad you called that out. And, as you were saying that, it made me think of someone I don't know any of them, but, like Overwatch pro player, right? If you're a pro player for Overwatch and that's your means of life, and you see these allegations and you see the company that makes that game being thrown, everything we've already discussed, that's concerning, right? And it's not like you're choosing to support anything negative to do with Activision-Blizzard or these allegations. It's just, that's what you do. You got into it because of your passion for Overwatch. So it's a tough situation for sure. So sorry, Bobby, you were going to say?
Yeah. So what we've done in the past before is so for Ubisoft, our reviews will start with, this is what's happening. please take this into mind when you decide to buy this game or pass it up. And then we just let our readers decide, like, do you want to support them or do you not want to support them? And that's kind of what I think the best course of action is for media at this point. I mean, just let your readers decide what's right and wrong. Do you want to support them or you don't want to support them? And I know I kind of jumped the gun, I guess, on Thursday, but I don't like seeing these things happen to people. I mean, this shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't even be the top of discussion in this industry. Our goal is, talk about games and how they make us feel, how they bring people together, not how they're tearing companies apart and people killing people. And that's not what games about. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm taking this a little bit to heart just because we've all been playing games for decades now, and it's like this is not our industry. This is not what we do.
Yeah, completely agree. And I don't think you should feel bad about anything you guys did a couple days ago with your decision. I think, as you said, this is kind of a malleable thing that's adjusting as we go. Exactly. And we're all figuring out how to deal with it. So, I certainly wouldn't feel bad about that at all.
No. So, yeah, going forward, I'll speak to the team, but like I think we just have to reassess this every couple of days and see, like, what do we want to do? What do we want to do today about this? How can we help? And I going forward, I mean, I'm upset about it just because, like, I shouldn't say I was part of it, but like I was witness to an allegation once, and it's rough. Like it wasn't that serious, but like it's rough. Even the smallest ones hurt. Like they hurt.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So I mean, as much as I like Activision's games, like they do put out some good games, and like we can't deny that. We have to support the employees that are making these games first before anything.
Of course.
What do you guys think? Let me ask you this real quick before we go on. What do you think? How do you think Sony responds with any kind of statement? Because they basically have, most of, the Call of Duty, I don't know if it's licenses, but they have all the
marketing deals,
the marketing stuff,
exclusive
Pro
stuff.
League.
Yeah, because I haven't heard a thing from them. Maybe I missed it. But I'm curious how, what you think they need to do, or if you guys think that they'll actually do anything, or even,
Do you, that's an interesting point, Dan. I think that goes back to what I was saying about I want leadership at other companies to speak up about this. Mm-hmm. But I think what you're driving kind of towards a bigger picture there is, again, allegations.
Right.
So you have to be careful, right?
Right.
But if depending on what happens here, those are the types of decisions that can really impact Activision, right? If PlayStation comes out and says,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it says, hey, these allegations are true. Say whatever happens, right? Further stuff comes out or gets proven. And PlayStation says, yeah, we're cutting all deals. We've seen that in other industries, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not getting into the political space, but we saw stuff with the political space and things that happen where it's like companies we're not donating to these companies anymore. And when you start these big companies that are talking hundreds of millions and into billions of dollars, and they start, removing their support for you, then that's how you're going to really have an impact. And that's where kind of board of directors start to make changes to CEOs and chief executives. So. Right. Yeah,
I think that's when you're hitting the bottom line. That's
100%.
Us not buying Diablo 4, isn't going to do much. I mean, like you said, you don't want to go too much political, but I mean, look at like the Goya situation, a year ago. It actually helped their company as opposed to because they got basically free advertising. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, from what was going on or whatever, depending on where you landed, but it just. That's why I said it earlier. Boycotts typically don't work, and these CEOs aren't going to take a cut before they take away 100 jobs.
No, we just saw it. Yeah, I mean, we just saw that from Blizzard. A couple months ago? It was like 200. Someone in chat, or you guys can correct me, but wasn't it like 240 employees or something were let go? And Kotick got $160 million bonus. It's just.
It's
nature,
gross, man. Yeah, I mean, but I think somebody like Sony could come out and make a huge statement getting past the whole allegations and everything else, if this all ends up being 100% true, it's all proven, it's all, documented, they can come out and say, you know what, we're ending that would hurt. That's going to hurt a lot more, I think, than, thousands of people maybe not buying a game or something like that.
Yeah. And I think further to that point too, I was thinking the other day, like, development companies who choose to publish with Activision, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they stop doing that, like Sekiro, for instance, from Game of the Year, sold millions of copies, great games, published by Activision, right? Because it's just From doesn't publish their own games, obviously. So when developers like that who have notable titles, right, like Elden Ring, say, hey, we're going with a different publisher, we're not going to work with you anymore. That's what'll drive true change for sure.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. Yep. Doom Killer, good to see you, man. I know he always tries to make our show, so that looks like the time helped you out. Fantastic. All right, guys, we are gonna move on unless you have anything else to add to that large conversation we just had.
No.
All right, let's get back to talking about the thing we like, right? Let's talk about some games. Let's turn this around. So EA Play was this week. I don't know about you guys. I was surprised at its quality. It was a quality show. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I really don't. But for someone who has been to EA Play in the LA area the past couple of years before the pandemic, of course, and kind of covered this, the shows really weren't that good, at least in my opinion. This show, great host, I forget the gentleman's name, but very energetic, a little bit over the top, of course, because it's a game show, but he did a great job. The games they showed and how they presented them, the conversations, in my opinion, guys, was really well done. We saw more Battlefield, which Game Rant chose to just completely break embargo ahead of time by announcing Battlefield Portal, which was kind of funny to witness. But you have Battlefield 2042, of course. You have Lost in Random, which is a fantastic looking EA original from the developer of Ghost Giant and Fae. I really like the look of that game. You've got Dead Space, man. Dead Space is back. The rumors are true. Motive is developing it. It's a remake of Part 1, and even the commentary around it was excellent. They've brought in some of the big Dead Space kind of streamers and community for feedback. They're reworking the mechanics. They hope that this is going to be like their Resident Evil 2 remake, like Capcom did, the equivalent. And they said that we've learned that microtransactions are a big turnoff for things like this, and promise that there'll be zero microtransactions to do with this game. This is after, of course, releasing It Takes Two and Mass Effect Legendary Edition this year, which both excellent games. And as Travis will tell you, Mass Effect 1, man, best one in the trilogy there. So, but my point, guys, is we can kind of talk through the games if you'd like, but this was a good show. And the big question I want you guys to consider as we go around here is EA turning a corner? Because, we just got off a half an hour rant session about Activision, and EA for years has been the kind of punching bag, if you will, sometimes for very good reason. But it feels like EA is kind of hitting a stride right now, which seems weird to say. What do you guys think?
I think EA gets a bad rep.
Okay.
I actually think EA makes lots of good games, and I think they have for a number of years.
Like Anthem, am I right?
Okay, well, not Anthem, but
hey, I like Anthem. Anthem's the running joke around here. But anyway, go ahead.
They got. Oh, really? You like Anthem?
I liked it for what it could have been, right? We don't have to get into that, but we had
I'm very familiar with that argument. I play Destiny, my friend. So
I know.
What it could be is, loving a game because of its potential is a deadly poison. Indeed,
you're exactly right. But anyway,
but yeah, I mean, like they made the Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order. That was an amazing game. I honestly, every year people say this. I look at an EA catalog and I'm like, what are you talking about? Do they make some games that are stinkers and are filled with like microtransactions? Yeah, but I don't even think they're the worst actor in that regard in the space. Ubisoft's microtransaction model is way worse. Every game has it, even their single player games. And, you got Assassin's Creed with microtransactions that speed up the game just so that it's less boring. Stuff like that. That's crazy. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think EA really does get a bad rap. Titanfall 2. I mean, come on. There's
Amazing.
so many good games in recent years. So I think they get a bad rep. But I will say, I think this year's been really strong. I think next year looks like it's going to be really strong. We still haven't gotten the full Dragon Age reveal of what's going on there next. We know that that's happening. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. Yeah, Mass Effect. They announced the new Mass Effect a few years back. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about EA. I think when people are upset about EA, they're upset about like the corporation EA, which corporations suck, and EA is one of the ones that isn't great. But
we just covered that extensively.
Yeah, we just covered corporations sucking extensively. But like, I think they really do get a bad rep. I think they make some good games that I like. Do I play Madden every year? No,
Sure.
but yeah, I honestly think it's. I'm not particularly surprised, but I'm excited by what they show. Battlefield looks like it's back. It's going to be a good one, which is awesome. So, and then what they've been doing in the indie space is also really good. With Lost in Random looks great. I would say It Takes Two is one of the better games that came out recently during the pandemic. And before that, they had A Way Out. I mean, A Way Out. Like, if you guys played that game, it's so good. So
loved it. It was cool.
Yeah,
I'm not as high on it as you guys, but that's
really.
Fair. Yeah,
it's really good. Well, it's like one of those games. Like, you only play it once, but you got to play it with somebody else who hasn't played it and doesn't know what happens, and that whole reveal is just really worth it. But I agree. Is it a technical marvel or like the most well-written game in the world? Like, no, but it's kind of a popcorn. It's like Fast and Furious, like what you're getting, and it's good at doing.
Fair enough.
So,
I think It Takes Two was that's where they start hitting their stride. That game is fantastic. But
it's one of the better co-op games this year. Like, that's undisputed.
Yeah. So some funny comments here. Let me get to these quick before you guys add in. So Fat Boy, another five. I said $5, £5 super chat. Thank you, sir. ME1 is always the GOAT. And I saw Forte in the chat as well, who is the ME2 stand with Travis. I'm going to turn Travis's camera off. Don't worry, Fat Boy. EA is still a punching bag, though. It deserves the rep it gets. Whoa. FIFA loot boxes as surprise mechanics springs to mind. Yeah, and I think that's the whole surprise mechanics quote, right? Again, corporate leader seemed out of touch with what he was speaking to. And I think that's that weird dichotomy you get with some of these companies is like, to Travis's point, they're producing a lot of good things. And we just kind of mentioned they are at least also listening to fan feedback, right? We got the Mass Effect collection we've always wanted and asked for years. We've got Dead Space coming back by a good developer. They're not just handing it off to some cheap third party and throwing a quick remaster, right? A full remake done by Motive is very promising. Supporting originals with the indies is positive and funding in that space. So yeah, there's a weird dichotomy there for sure. Faz in the house, good morning. Plants vs. Zombies, another good one. Yeah. So guys, who else wants to touch on EA Play? Anything that jumped out to you? Anything about EA themselves?
I'm kind of disappointed there was no Fight Night. I mean, I love Fight Night, and they've been sitting on this franchise for over a decade, and there's been nothing. Yeah,
and the only
I wasn't expecting to hear that.
I think there's that kind of core. It's not a gigantic community, right? But the community who loves Fight Night loves Fight Night. It's a very dedicated community, and there is that indie studio that's developing that new boxing game.
I saw that.
Yeah, which looks pretty cool. But it will be interesting to see if Fight Night comes back. I think the problem for a publisher like EA is that UFC is a big game for them, and quite frankly, UFC as a brand nowadays is just so much bigger than boxing.
Yep,
that's true.
From a money perspective, it's money, man. It's always money.
But no, I mean, for EA Play, it was a lot better than last year. Like, we can be 100% on that. Like, last year was just like a bunch of PowerPoint presentations with like a couple of logos. But no, it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm still torn on this Dead Space remake. I don't know if I'm on board with it just yet, just because like I don't think the original was bad anyway. I thought it was really good. I still think it's really good. Like, it holds up well over a decade later. I'm just kind of disappointed we never got a fourth game. Like I really think they could have just moved the sequel forward and maybe gave us a new protagonist with like a new setting. But I mean, who knows? They could be doing that in secret. We just don't know about it yet.
Or as we've seen many times, right? They may kind of gauge interest in this remake, and then if this remake sells 5 million plus copies, then it's like, all right, Dead Space. We keep, because we have this tendency, I think, as a community to say everyone wants this, everyone wants it. I hear it all the time, and it's like, well, no, that's not everyone. This tiny minority you see on social media is not everyone. I mean, we hear about, and I know Mo's in the chat, he's going to go off, but we hear about Splinter Cell all the time, and I'm one of them. Everyone, that we talk to wants Splinter Cell to come back. Go back and look at how well Splinter Cell sold. It didn't sell well.
It's like 12 million copies over the series.
Yeah, it didn't sell well. So when you're we're back to executives again, but when you're executives and you're talking about dedicating a 200-person studio and I'm making numbers up, but a $50 million, $100 million budget to a big game, and you're like, what did the last game sell? And they say 1.5 million copies. It's simple math. It's just
100%.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not there. So even though we hear all the time, everyone wants Splinter Cell, and I want it as well. That's not an easy decision to make if you're sitting at the top of the company, having to put the money of the company on the line, especially knowing that it might not sell. So I think this is a way for companies like EA to gauge it, right? Dead Space remake, you use Motive. It's a great studio, a little smaller. The budget's probably not going to be huge, but you can gauge the interest in that IP to really see if it's worth investing in the future, which Ubisoft could have very well have done with Splinter Cell, right? Give us a Splinter Cell remake, bring back the original or Chaos Theory or one of the ones that people love, and truly find out where that audience is. So anyway, that was a tangent. Sorry. Let me get to Gaming Fortes because this will be better for Travis. $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Forte. Appreciate your support, brother. Mass Effect 1 needed a remake to even come close to the greatness of 2. ME1 is the third best game in the franchise by default. Sorry to break this sad news. Forte, I was very happy to see you this morning, man, but you can go now. You're good. I'm joking. But thank you, man. The ME debate will continue forever, I'm sure. Dan, EA Play, did you catch up on it?
Yeah, I caught up on it. Here's the thing, to Travis's point, they do get a bad rap. I mean, but also I think you have to separate the studios, right? You have to kind of go, okay, this is fine over here. You've got, Titanfall 2, great game, great single player game. But then you've got Madden over here, which is essentially a remake of the last years, with very, very few additions, or FIFA for that matter. But people keep buying them. So it's hard not to, keep doing what you're doing when the profits are there. And we saw this week or last week with was it PES soccer or whatever?
Yes.
They're going to go
Pro Evolution Soccer.
Pro Evolution Soccer, yeah. So they're gonna do a free to play model.
What we've talked about,
what we've talked about forever. Yeah, I mean, you can update the engine every 3 years if you need to, or do whatever you got to do, but make it a live service game instead. You can have that, regular franchise or whatever you want to do, and just make incremental upgrades. And have Sports a battle pass.
Yeah, they're the perfect game. Dan and I have talked about this forever. Yeah. It's the perfect model for it, right? Yeah. And we've seen it in the shooter space. Yep. That's why Halo's going free to play. You do the seasons is where shooters have gone, right? And the battle passes, etc. It's unbelievable to me that sports games haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I mean, as long as studios that they have underneath them, have the creative freedom. Then I think we'll be all right. Once EA as a publisher starts coming in and, starts making these guys like inject, microtransactions or different kinds of ways, or, for example, Mass Effect Andromeda, you've basically forced BioWare to use this Frostbite engine, and we saw how well that worked out. But then you look at Dragon Age Inquisition, that seemed to work out okay, so it's weird. It's a weird way, weird situation over there. I mean, I still am going to buy, Madden almost every year. even though it's usually now, maybe not. Maybe I'll, I see it's coming to Game Pass, shortly after release anymore. So, I don't know, man. I mean, EA, like Dead Space sounds awesome. It could be, an amazing remake if they do it right, but we'll kind of see. It's the Portal thing looks actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna
does.
lie.
It's like Battlefield Forge is basically what they're doing, except for you can't modify the maps.
Yeah.
The Battlefield will catch up with Halo maybe one day, probably not. But
Also, I have a theory why they don't do free-to-play sports games. I think it's because the person that buys the sports game is the core gamer, the mysterious, hard to pin down core gamer that I think doesn't really understand the free-to-play model, or at least hasn't in the past.
That could be true,
like they're the type of person who wants to go into GameStop and go, I want the new Madden. They don't even know what it's called,
2 or 3 games a year, and Madden
2 or 3 games a year, and Madden is one of them, and they don't want it to change, and they're selling copies and probably making more money with this model anyway. So why would they even consider it? And I think that maybe that will change, especially as free to play and games as a service becomes more common. But I really think that the people that are playing Madden aren't the type of people who are on Fortnite and understand that model really well. I don't think there's a lot of overlap there. That's my theory on why that they haven't caught up there. There's just no incentive, and it's probably not what their target audience even really wants or relates to.
Yeah. So Pong in the house, he said, Battlefield is back. Portal's incredible love letter to all the Battlefield fans who have been disappointed for a while now. Props to EA. Yeah, and I think you're right. And there's minimum 5 studios working on this Battlefield, right? I mean, they're going all in on this Battlefield to really bring it back. So
it looks great.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Fat Boy, another super chat. Fat Boy, man, I obviously appreciate the super chats, but please just comment, man. I'll call you out. You don't have to pay us every time, I promise. But appreciate the £5 super chat. If we really want EA remakes, I want James Pond, RoboCod, or Populous. That's a deep dig right there. I think you lost some people. He's going back to classic Genesis era. What do you call it? Electronic Arts, when they had the little yellow plastic on the cartridge. Populous was a classic, man, no doubt. That was anyone who can remember who made Populous. That's going back now. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So Diego in the house. Good to see you, Diego. All right, guys. EA turning a corner. Yes. So one other thing I wanted to touch on here, we're going to Ubisoft, is this XDefiant, because I've heard a lot of conversation. It kind of came out while I was on vacation. I caught up with it. Ubisoft, we were just talking about the shooter space, free to play. Splitgate has been making the rounds and really kind of gaining an audience, which is fantastic to see. Some of the guys in the chat have been playing it and saying that it's very well done, and it's cool to see a studio that's so small having such success again. But when it comes to Ubisoft, this XDefiant thing seems strange to me, guys, and I want to get your thoughts, because I don't know about the direction Ubisoft is going. So they already announced Division Heartland, right, which is going to be free to play in some form of the Division IP. We'll see what that looks like. I'm a big Division player. I know Dan's got many hours into it as well. Really enjoyed those games. But I don't know where it goes in the free-to-play space and what that means. And so XDefiant seems a strange thing to me. You've got this space, which is already obviously, you've got Destiny, which is massive. You got Call of Duty, which is massive. And you've got Battlefield coming back this year. Looks great. Halo's coming back this year. Looks great. The shooter space is very, very tough to break through at a high level. And you've got Ubisoft, one of the biggest publishers, putting out XDefiant, which looks like a very weird mix of their IPs, where they've thrown in stuff from Division and they've got Tom Clancy's name on it, which is traditionally a much more kind of serious shooter, tactical. But you've got this goofy kind of neon-esque, I don't know, this aesthetic to the game that looks very strange. And now the gameplay doesn't look bad. And I'm always up for trying a game before, I'll always play it. But where does this game sit? I guess the bigger question is, who's this game for? Because it doesn't look or play like Division. So it doesn't really matter that you have Division, characters or what have you in it. They've got a half Splinter Cell looking person on, Sam Fisher on the cover, which only made people angry, of course, because of what we just talked about with Splinter Cell. And it looks to play like many other first-person shooters. It looks to play a lot like Call of Duty, but with, Flash, if you will. So I don't know who this game's for. What when you guys first saw this, what did you think about it? Does it interest you at all?
It's for my kids, I think, because when I showed them the game, I said, "Here, look at this. This is this new." They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Oh,
what is this?" They're like, "It's Valorant and Call of Duty and something else all kind of mixed together." And then like not 10 minutes later, hey, this game looks pretty awesome. It was all of a sudden they changed their tune.
Really?
And they're like, yeah, they're like, this is this might be actually pretty good. We'll have to see. And these are 14-year-old twin boys who play a lot of Fortnite, also play a lot of Call of Duty, so that's kind of their wheelhouse. So maybe that's what they're looking at. It's free to play. Yeah. Right. So we knew something. Ubisoft said, not a month ago or so, that this is kind of the direction they were looking to go. So,
yeah.
I didn't expect it this quick, Now, this isn't a game for me, mostly because it's multiplayer, so that's immediately out the door. But it's I wasn't expecting. Yeah, that's not a. Yeah,
that's not Dan's forte.
No, I'm a single player game mostly. Sometimes I do co-op, very very rarely. But that's just it looks okay. I mean, I started seeing stuff. I was like, it's like everything kind of mixed together, but in probably a better way than what their mobile game was trying to do.
Which is dead, by the way.
Yeah,
they're already
dead.
ending that game.
Yeah. So there's that.
But that's kind of my point, though. Is like it's a mashup, right? And first-person shooter. And you said your kids were like, "Oh, this looks cool," but in reality, this game, they said it's in early development, right? Which means we're not going to truly see it in production until next year, at least. Is there really a market for this game when you have Halo, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Destiny, all these other games kind of taking the huge chunks of the market?
I think, yeah, probably.
Okay.
The games industry is huge, and I don't think it's the case anymore that there has to be like one big successful shooter until the next one kills it, right? Like the whole idea of there being like a game killer. Oh, this is going to be the Destiny killer. Oh, this is a WoW killer. I don't think that really is a thing.
You didn't see Anthem kill Destiny? What happened?
Yeah, I think Anthem committed suicide is what happened there. But yeah, I don't think that that's a thing anymore. Does this game appeal to me personally? No, not really. It looks like kind of a generic shooter. The free-to-play model that Ubisoft seems like they're kind of obsessed with these days. Their Assassin's Creed sounds like it's going to be a games as a service now. They're not going to be releasing new Assassin's Creeds for the next few years. They're just going to keep building on the Valhalla game that just came out this past year. I think this is Ubisoft's model now is they release a game and they try to keep it going as long as they can, like Rainbow Six Siege. And it's sort of it's a trend in the industry, but it's not been so universally applied across a publisher's library of games as Ubisoft is doing it. Like they're going ham. Like every game is going to have the same model. I think they probably have some data to support that this is the way to go. I don't think every game needs to be a games as a service, free-to-play model. I am sort of the opinion that like if it makes sense for the game, do it. But it's Ubisoft. This is what they do. They're probably going to make a bundle on this. I have no idea how this game is going to play or what its like niche will be in the shooter landscape. But I'm all for them trying new things. Like sure, I'll probably play it. I don't think I'll stick with it, especially since Halo comes out this fall, and my life will be that probably for the next while. But yeah, I'm they're trying new stuff, and hats off to them. I hope it's good.
Yeah, I hope it is too. And I don't mean to sound kind of indifferent about it. I am indifferent about it, but you know what I mean. Negative on it, I guess would be the word. And if it's free to play, I'll definitely try it. I'm confused at the direction, I guess, because remember, Ubisoft also made Hyperscape, which was their battle royale, which it's gone down to next to no players now. It seems like feels like they try to capitalize on trends, right? Which is funny enough, what Nick's just said in the comments. Ubisoft seems to be following all the trends, and sometimes that can be beneficial, other times not. So I guess hopefully the quality kind of overcomes that, but we'll see.
But why do this now when you just released an Assassin's Creed game that is your best-selling game, Assassin's Creed of all time?
Mm-hmm.
You can see the potential there as well, but they're going to change that into a live service. It's a weird way Ubisoft is doing this stuff. I understand to a certain extent, but I'm also a little bit sad because Assassin's Creed games have always been one of my favorite franchises. It's always been one of those comfort foods in my gaming hobby. So.
You know what I like about Assassin's Creed?
What do you like?
Uh-oh.
Here we
The
go.
multiplayer.
Thank you.
In Unity?
I miss it.
That's it. The multiplayer.
Said no
Dude,
one
honestly,
ever.
underrated though. It is.
No.
actually
It was good.
underrated
It was
multiplayer.
fantastic.
It is. It was a super.
In the
It
one
was a
game?
super unique idea.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't just one game. It wasn't just one game.
Was it?
The
was
first
in
one.
Unity?
The first one was the best multiplayer. But
Brotherhood,
it was-
yep.
Yeah, Brotherhood. But
I tried
there
to play
was-
Unity's, but it was broken. I mean,
No, the
Yeah.
co-op was
Truly
fantastic in
broken.
Unity. I actually think the co-op should have stuck around, but they dropped it the next game because you know how that game turned
because
out.
that game wasn't good. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it was good. It was just not ready. I think Unity was probably the best traditional Assassin's Creed, and then we got what happened with Origins.
That's me projectile vomiting.
You didn't like it? What-
No. No. Are we talking about the same game? Is this the one in France?
I reviewed it at launch. It was-
Phasma's in the chat. I
Yeah.
know she talks highly of Unity as well.
I love the parkour. I think the parkour was the best, hands down. It was the best urban setting, and the parkour was the best. But the rest, they could upgrade it every year.
You're blowing my mind right now.
How did we turn this
I
into
didn't know there were. I didn't know there were.
Dan, why
Unity's
did you bring up
fans.
Assassin's Creed?
I
This is
don't
on you.
know. I don't know. That was my bad.
I think they're all good, but I think that one it brought the best of the old games into a new setting. But I mean, and then Origins happened. I'm not a big Origin. I like the new style, but traditional Assassin's Creed will always be number one with me.
Yeah, I think that's a big conversation in and of itself.
Yeah.
I
have no words.
it's a big one.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The
the joke was that Assassin's Creed has multiplayer. So take that. Dan.
That was the original point that was being made, right?
Yeah.
So, well, we'll see. Circling back to Ubisoft and XDefiant, we'll see what comes of it. Apparently, they're going to be. I did sign up for the, the alpha, if you will, but the comment on it when you sign up is that there's only starting with PC only, which I don't really care to try. So we'll see what people say of it when they check it out soon. We'll see.
Well, an interesting note is that I don't know if you guys saw this in the press release, but Mark Rubin is leading development on this new XDefiant, and he was at, I guess, Activision for 10 years. I guess he was working Call of Duty. I remember that name popping up.
Yeah, that name is definitely familiar, but I'm not placing it.
Yeah, he was at Call. He made Call of Duty for over a decade. It looks like, just because I had to look him up when I was doing my article. But I think they're trying to grab that crowd, but I don't think it's going to work because I mean, Call of Duty is Call of Duty. You don't really have. I've never seen a player who plays both Call of Duty and Rainbow Six because they're very different games.
There you go. Infinity Ward, which Mo just said in the chat, right? Exactly. So that would explain why the gameplay itself, the gunplay, looked very similar to Call of Duty, right? But we'll see. We'll see.
I'm always open to trying new games. You have to, right? So I mean, I'll definitely I'll be doing a preview on it for sure.
Cool. All right, guys. Last thing I want to touch on today is the Steam Deck, because this got launched or not launched, excuse me. This got kind of announced and pre-orders went out while I was on vacation. So funny story. I was this was announced and I was like, and then I read that it's basically an open PC, so you can install Windows on it if you want to, even though it comes with the Steam OS for your Steam library. And I don't have a big Steam library. Like I said, not a big PC gamer, But as soon as I read you can install Windows on it, my mind went to, okay, portable Game Pass machine, which means portable things like Forza Horizon 5 and Flight Sim and Psychonauts and all these other things. So I was out that morning. We were out hiking in Colorado. I was on vacation. I was like, all right, guys, I have to be back at the cabin by 10:45 a.m. Mountain Time so that at 11 a.m. I can be ready to pre-order this damn thing. And so sure enough, I got my pre-order in for the top model. And my pre-order, I was showing some of the guys in chat, my pre-order actually says 10:00 a.m., literally the minute it went live, because apparently what they're going to do is they're going to ship those out based on how early you pre-ordered them. So I will hopefully be one of the first people to get this thing and kind of try it out. But it's interesting to me. I don't know if you guys already kind of commented this maybe on other outlets or whatnot, but it feels like, and I know many people have said this, right? It feels like the Switch Pro that we were all hoping for. It looks like a more mature machine, better controls, more serious build quality, higher end hardware. Obviously nowhere up to like the console status that we're used to or modern PCs, but its capabilities are in terms of just raw power are almost double a Switch. So it should run games, at least semi-efficiently. But what do you guys think about this? Any of you have pre-orders in? Are you excited by the potential here? You have 2 pre-orders in.
2 pre-orders in. That's right.
Okay. You and the girl?
Yeah, I mean, well, I just need for work. We tried to order as many of them as we can, but
okay.
I need one for the standard Steam Deck, and then I need one to be my Tinker device that maybe I install Windows on or whatever. So, I'm going to hopefully do that. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be great. Steam hasn't really had a lot of, or Valve, I should say, hasn't had a lot of success with hardware. All their hardware has sort of been flops over the years. Really, the only big success in hardware they've had is their the Valve Index, their VR headset, which I still think is like the Rolls Royce of VR. If you're into that,
you're not using the Steam Pad for Halo Infinite?
No, don't really like the Steam controller. I some people really swear by that thing. I own one. Yeah. I own one, and I'm like, this thing feels like I'm holding. It feels like a controller that you would get made to give to a infant who you wanted to pretend was playing the game while you played it, like the fake steering wheels that you give the kid while you drive. It's like that. That's what that controller feels like to me. Anyway, but I am a PC gamer. I play console first. I'm an Xbox main if I had to describe myself, but I own PlayStation and Nintendo, and I do play a lot of PC games, especially for VR. I mean, PC is the way to go if you do VR games, which I am now a VR player because of Half-Life Alyx. That game, if you haven't played it, is amazing, and it's worth getting into VR just for that.
I've had so many people tell me I have to get a new VR PC headset so I can play the game.
You really do. Like, honestly, I was against VR for years, and that game is the reason I bought a VR headset, and it was actually worth it. It's literally worth buying a $1,000 headset just to play that game. It's so good. But yeah, I do play a lot of PC games. So, and it's also the platform for reviews a lot of time, as you know. And so having a Steam Deck actually could be helpful for work. You're reviewing a game. Obviously, you're not going to do capture on it, but with their cloud syncs that they've promised and being able to play it remotely, I go to the mother-in-law's house and I bring my Steam Deck rather than having to bring my whole rig if I'm working on a review over the weekend or whatever. So there's a lot of potential there that gets me excited for it. And I disagree that it's this Switch I always wanted. I mean, the OLED model I also pre-ordered that same week, the day before the Steam Deck was pre-orderable.
Okay.
And that console also sold out. And I think it sold out for a reason, because Switch isn't competing in the power space, and I don't think they ever will, and I don't think they ever should. I think that they do a thing well because they aren't competing in that space. They're playing at, they got Hades. That was Game of the Year last year, and that was on Switch because Switch doesn't care about power, right? They're looking for those games that don't need it. Obviously, power would be nice on a Nintendo device, but I think that their business model is just going in a different direction. And I think, again, like I was saying earlier about this industry, is that it's now big enough to where it's not a zero-sum game. It's
100%.
not Sega has to die because Nintendo succeeds. It's not that anymore. It's Sega Stan right here. Yeah. Shout out to that podcast that didn't happen yesterday. Hey. I think the Steam Deck and the Switch OLED model can exist and can both be successful, and I think that should be celebrated. And I pre-ordered both, so I'm excited for both, and think that other people should be too, and not be so mean to Nintendo or Steam. Both of them are good companies, in my opinion. I hope that both of them are successful.
I think they will be. I mean, we say all the time here that exactly what you just stated, right? When you look at Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox, particularly in the console market, we always say that, people have this fake war and competition in their head. And of course there's competition. It's a competitive market, but all three are posting record revenues. And I promise you that's not going to stop, right? The game market is just exploding. There's plenty of room for different ideas and stuff. But Dan, what I'm hearing is Travis is going to be our it's good to have some balance on the Nintendo side in the Bitcast realm. So yeah, because I haven't done a good job about it.
One way or the other, but
right.
All right.
Before Travis, we were kind of like this, but hopefully we'll balance that a little bit.
You know what I'm learning about you, Dan, or Ains?
Yes.
And this is a compliment and also me ragging on you. Okay. Is that you are like the original hipster. You're like the proto hipster. Everything that people don't like, you're like, I like that the most, more than anything else. And let me tell you why. True. Nobody else understands how good it is. Sega, Mass Effect 1, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Like all of the stuff, you're just a fan of. You go against the grain, and you're an Xbox player. Xbox players, man, especially people who are really in the industry, they love to be on the underdog team. And I like that before it was cool. You're the proto hipster, dude. Like this is what I'm learning about you.
Did you just say I'm the only person supporting Sega out there?
I'm just saying Sega's the underdog. I don't think anybody goes Sega, Nintendo. Oh yeah, those are equal. Like Nintendo and then Sega. Like that's how people usually think of it. So that's all I'm saying and I mean this as a compliment. Is that you. You speak for the forgotten man when it comes to the games industry, really. And in some cases, it plays to our strength because I have some hipster tendencies too when it comes to video games. I try not to be, but like I said to you on our industry perspectives, I love Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, and I think it's the best Elder Scrolls game, and no one agrees with me except you. And you know why? Because you're a hipster. You're a gaming hipster.
So many comments running through my head, but see me after the show.
Yeah, he's gonna show up in like a newsboy hat with some kind of weird flannel on. It's gonna be awesome.
I don't think you realize what you've just done to me, Travis. I'm not gonna live this one down. I'm not gonna live this one down for a long time. So thank you for that. Let me get to Pampa Super Chat before you guys comment on Steam Deck. Pampa, good morning, man. Good to see you. Good day, gents. Appreciate the new early time. Helps my morning work go by quickly. Always appreciate you guys and hope everyone has a great Sunday. Hit that like button, everyone. Yes, thank you very much, Pampa. Always appreciate it. Hope work is going well, man. I mean this is a compliment. As soon as you said I mean this is a compliment, I prepared myself. I prepared myself for what was coming.
Yeah. I don't mean any offense by this. As soon as that comes out of the kid's mouth,
it's like when the guy says, "I'm not racist, but
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. So sad.
Oh boy.
So here's the deal with that Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So I bought 17 Nintendo Switch Pros, pre-ordered them. Not really. I didn't buy a single one. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I didn't want to make anybody upset. But anyway, I looked at it and I saw what it's going to start running stuff on. It's really not that much different than the Switch as far as, it's got a much, I don't know. I mean, the libraries are pretty much the same anymore if you count most of the Switch shovelware that's everywhere on the Nintendo. But it's a nice thing to have. My kids are kind of interested in it, but I was just like, I'll just buy you a new computer. That's we don't really. I mean, the portability factor. I don't know how much. I just don't use it. I mean, I don't use my Switch at all. But like, if I did, the portable part would probably be the least amount used. I mean, I wouldn't use it taking it anywhere now, especially since I can just plug in my Kishi on my Xbox if I'm really, really desperate to play on, somewhere else, or at my in-laws, which is where it usually happens, to my wife's chagrin. It's just, I'm just not a, mobile player, I guess. So it's a cool little concept for sure. I mean, I think, it'll do well. It's obviously pre-ordered like crazy. So
yeah,
good on Valve. Hopefully it turns out for them. I have no idea. I didn't get one because it was just something I probably would never use. I'm starting to be more practical, trying to be. It's not working great. Like I'll still buy games on 2 different systems for no reason. But as far as that kind of stuff goes, I'm just like, nah.
That's where I was, because we joke all the time, like my Switch I can't remember the last time I turned my Switch on, right? And the portability factor hasn't been huge for me. But as soon as I got in my head, for whatever reason, that I could play like Halo and maybe not multiplayer, right? But just Halo campaign or Forza or these other games that I love, like on the go, I was like, oh man, that's just too tempting to try and ignore.
But you can really
and
play
to Travis's
Halo, right?
point, it could be very good for things like that, like indie games and review copies on PC, if you've got to do something else. Oh man, look, chat's already killing me, Travis. You've done it. You've done it.
Oh, man.
And by the way, I'm just gonna leave this up. AKW's got my back. Love Sega. I'm just gonna leave that there the rest of the show.
I love Sega.
Yeah, I love Sega too.
It's not hipster. It's just old guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm kind of in the same boat. Morrowind's the best.
Old people love Nintendo too.
Look at this.
We used to love Nintendo. Nintendo has done us dirty. That's our problem with it.
Dan.
It's done us dirty.
No.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's just done us dirty. I'll just leave it at that.
You've activated my trap card. Now we get to debate Nintendo Sega.
No, we're not doing that today. We're not doing that today. So, Bobby, what do you think, man? Steam Deck, did you pre-order one? You have any interest in this?
I do, actually. I was in that queue, and trying to pre-order that day was a nightmare.
Yes, it was a mess.
I ended up getting one, but it ended up costing me, I spent like $30 on Steam credit just because it wouldn't let you pre-order because I didn't buy anything for like a year or something. But I ended up getting one. I got one for I guess it says Q1 2022, but I'm hoping it comes a little bit earlier so I can start reviewing it. And
it comes out in December, so
yeah, that's what they're saying. So I mean, who knows when it'll actually get to me? But I got the 256 model. And I'm hoping I'm going to dual boot. I probably will end up doing a dual boot on there just because, I mean, why not? It doesn't seem like it's going to be too complicated. I mean, worst comes to worst, I'm sure they have a factory reset where you can just restore it to Steam OS 3 or whatever it is. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I do have a big-ish Steam library. I mean, it's a lot of older games, but I mean, that portability is number one for me. I mean, I love taking my Switch with me everywhere I go these days. Like, it's always with me.
Cool.
It just means now I don't have to carry my laptop with me, so I can bring my Switch and my Steam Pro, and I'm not gonna really compare the two because they're not the same thing. They're completely different machines. They do different things.
Yeah.
The only thing I would compare them to is like how long they last while I'm on the go, and that's kind of what I want to be focusing on when they launch. Like, what's the kind of time frame I have on the go with the Steam machine and the Switch?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful looking machine. It does look like a Game Gear. Let's all be honest. It is a Game Gear, and I think they should have called it a Game Gear. Sega, the Game Gear. They should really go with the Game Gear.
Yeah. Did you guys see how big it is? I didn't realize. You see the pictures. You're like, okay, it looks pretty big, right? But when you measure it out, it's actually the width or whatever, length of 2 Vitas. It's 12 inches. It's a full foot.
That's insane.
It's a foot wide, so it's it's a hefty boy. So just be prepared.
I'm okay with that as long as they have the accessories to support, like a tablet stand, and just like I know they have the dock and all that, but like the biggest complaint I've seen is the button placement, because it's not like I guess like the Switch where we're used to, but it's like on top above the buttons, and it doesn't make sense to us. But I saw like the IGN preview, and they're saying, it feels really comfortable. It's natural.
Yeah.
But the buttons look really small. That's the only thing I'm worried about is those are really small buttons.
And they're in the very top corner. But I did see there is a design discussion with one of the people at Valve that helped create it, and he talked through kind of the ergonomics and why they did certain things. So if you haven't watched that, it's quite good, and it was pretty impressive. It's obviously they've obviously put a lot of design effort, thought process into designing this thing. It seems very well designed, and I love one of the things I really like about it, right, is when you look at the way it's held, it's very similar to kind of what we've all become accustomed to with modern controllers, right? It has your bumpers, has your nice kind of curved triggers. It's actually got paddles, right, built into the back. It just looks like, I said, I didn't mean it in a derogatory way, but it looks like a more advanced Switch. It really does. And so I just, I think it's very promising. And the fact, it goes without saying, I think the biggest selling point for many people is just this: you have your Steam library right there, right? I mean, Steam is massive, and there's many in the community that swear by their Steam library, and that's just where they play, right? So factoring that in, I think, is just huge for them. So it's gonna be interesting to see for sure. But I'm excited for it.
Just
Very
the fact
exciting.
like the fact that you can add like your Stadia, your library, you can do XPlay on it, or XPlay, XCloud on there. Like you have XCloud, you have all these all these things you can do on there now.
Yeah,
that the Switch can't do. And that's kind of what I think is the best thing. It's an all-in-one machine now. They're building it as not just like your portable PC library. It's the all-in-one machine where you can play Xbox, you can play remote play from your PlayStation, you can do Google's thing. And we don't have Luna here in Canada, but like you can do Luna. That's really cool. But yeah, going forward, I mean, I think there's space for both of them. It's still up in the air with Steam because Steam has, like you said, a notorious streak of having all these products come out and then just dropping them because there was no support for them. But who knows? Like this could be the start of something new. Like this could be Valve's entry into a new market space, and they could help very well shape the future of the gaming industry over the next 10 years because of this product.
Yeah, I think that's one. That's a great point, Bobby. Because what's really interesting about it, right, is in reality, when you really step back, it's just a portable PC with a screen on it, right? And what that allows it to do, because it is an open PC, is everything you just said. It has operating systems, and you can play your PC games, and you can play anything that can traditionally connect to a PC, which is very different from a closed environment like the Switch. And I think that's what really makes it intriguing, right? And it's a perfect play for Valve because you're selling a portable PC that is going to be sold for all the reasons we just said, but at the same time, you're defaulting people to Steam, which is where you're obviously making all your revenue from. So,
and that's not even the beginning, right? You have Epic Game Store coming. You could, and my biggest thing is we can emulate games now. So if I want to play Super Nintendo, I just boot up the emulator. If I want to play PlayStation games, I can just go, hey, I'll rip my game and I'll put it on the Steam Deck.
That's what I mean. It's just a PC, so you can anything.
It's beautiful. Like it's what we need. I'm surprised it took this long to get a machine like this from into the industry, but like thankfully Valve. Yeah. They tried, but like it was the right approach, I think.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, Travis. Real quick, I was just going to say, with the success of the Switch, right? The Switch is a monumental success. I think maybe that is what was needed to kind of drive a company like Valve to say, there's a market here. We can do this.
Yeah, I think it's a confluence of events that have disproven the longstanding theory that mobile game platforms were dead because everybody was just going to be playing on their phones, and that's just like so wrong now. We know like there's a renaissance of mobile devices now, and I think Microsoft is wisely staying out of the space, I think, because that isn't really their forte, and xCloud makes a lot more sense for their business model. But then these other companies that I think excel in the mobile space, like Nintendo, even with the 3DS before the Switch, knew that they had really like cracked into something with that in that space. And I think it's really great news for us because, again, it's like this industry just keeps expanding. There's room for people who just want to play on their cell phones and people who want dedicated devices like us. And if I can plug, the Steam Deck is IGN's first this month. So we have content all month long about the Steam Deck, including an interview with Gabe Newell that you can watch clips of now. Keep it tuned to there. And I can tell you that I have not held the Steam Deck in my hands yet, but my coworkers who have, they all say that it's like surprisingly comfortable, that the weight in your hand feels right, and that the placement of the sticks isn't as bad as you might think, which I am an Xbox player, so the staggered sticks is like how I live, right? And I even on PlayStation, the fact that they're both down here, I feel like my hands are constantly slipping off the controller. But apparently that's not a problem on this device, so I'm definitely willing to give it a try. But everything I've heard so far is that like you hold it and instantly you're like, oh, actually I kind of get this. So
cool. Yeah, fantastic, man. Well, that's good, because hopefully then, you're a perfect person to kind of speak to this as the year goes on and we see more and more about it and get models out there for people. So fantastic. One thing I wanted to comment on real quick, which I kind of slipped over because we were joking about all the hipster stuff. And Kev, I see you in chat. Stop it. This is a great point too by Beast Mode. Steam Deck is promising a lot of titles that were created originally with regular PC with large gaming assets, correct? All these running with Proton Windows, the Steam OS translation layer. So you're getting into it a bit there, Beast, but yeah, very true. And I think one of the things I saw make the rounds, and some people in chat said around targeting 30 FPS, be very careful with that, right? Because when those kind of comments are made, what they're saying is that the hardware, the CPU, the GPU, the RAM, the memory, everything, right? Their target there was 30 FPS on a mobile space. But remember, this is a PC, and all these PC games that we're talking about have the ability to kind of go up and down, right? So whereas if you're playing on a home monitor, say your monitor here or TV or something, and you want to play in 4K, 30 FPS because the assets are so large, again, you scale that down to a smaller screen and a portability factor. You can bring those texture qualities down. You can bring those other things down. You could lower it and raise your FPS. It's not. Don't take my point being. Don't take that as Steam Deck games are always going to be 30 FPS. I'm not buying it. That's not what was meant by that. And I think people kind of ran away with that notion incorrectly.
We're also forgetting it's a PC, right? You can edit the INI files to
that's
60 frames.
Exactly my point. And almost all PC games, as you know, you can adjust them up and down.
Support that rate.
They're scalable, right? So it's kind of a shame they even made that comment because people ran with it incorrectly. It's like you just kind of fed fuel to something you didn't need to feed. But
I will say I am a little worried about the compatibility, because the promise of, hey, your whole Steam library can be on here. I mean, we already know that that's not true universally, right? Like one of the first things that came out the day that Steam Deck was announced was that you can't play Destiny 2 on it. I'm a big Destiny player, so obviously this was in my feed, but like not all of the games are going to work on your Steam Deck. And I think that, there's some games that, you've got 19 hotkeys, right? As part of your control scheme. Those are probably not going to be super compatible, or at least they're going to have issues. And it's not going to be, Valve can just instantly take your whole library and convert all those games to Steam Deck games. I think it's going to require work on developers' part for certain games.
Yep.
And I think it will not be ubiquitous right away. And I think that's the main challenge of the Steam Deck, is that the PC platform is so spread out that reining it in and letting it work on a mobile device that has like 11 buttons is not easy. Yeah. And I think that is the biggest hurdle that the Steam Deck has. Like it could end up being that thing that lots of people bought and then nobody uses just because it has such a specific use case. And unless you're a tinkerer who wants to be on that platform and downloading OSs and patches and doing all the stuff that tinkerers like to do, it's just going to be one of those things that slides into your shelf and you forget about it, like the Vita, right? Or for me, the Vita, like that's what are you a fan of the Vita too? Is this?
Yeah, I've got to be. I'm a hipster. You remember?
I love the Vita. The Vita was ahead of its time.
Okay, it was certainly ahead of its time in its ability to take up closet space, which is where I kept it entirely.
Yeah, B says. Going back to the 30 FPS, B says target is 30 FPS is correct for those specs, 1.6 teraflops of power. Yeah, exactly. All I'm saying is people shouldn't make the assumption that every game is going to be 30 FPS only. There is scalability there. Let me get these super chats real quick, guys, before I miss them. Graham in the house. Thank you for the $5 super chat, man. Steam Deck the size of a $5 pomp, a foot long without the lettuce and tomatoes. Yeah, it's going to be a big boy. Thank you for that. Darge in the house. Good to see you, Darge. Come on, you irons. No, man, up the blades. You know this, Darge. Coming in with Premier League talk. So appreciate you, Darge. Thanks for stopping by, dude. All right, guys. Anything else you want to touch on the Steam Deck before we close out?
Bring it on.
The old bring it on.
Even though I'm not getting it. Fly.
Yeah, I got a fly in here too.
It's driving me nuts.
Super chat, random supporter, €5.49 super chat. Best of luck with the new podcast direction. Thank you so much.
It's the best.
Obviously, don't know who you are, Mr. Random Supporter, or he or she, but we greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, guys, it's been a fantastic conversation. We're just over 2 hours. Chat, you've been amazing. A lot of faces today, especially considering this was a new time early in the morning. Great to see a lot of the usual audience here. So thank you very much. Super excited to have Travis aboard full time, despite the the slander that he threw against me today. I'm
here for it, man. This is
I know.
I'm gonna get my popcorn and just be like,
You're
But
next,
Bobby,
Dan,
thanks
so
for
comfortable.
great
Don't have
finally
worries
getting
about that multiplayer.
the slander is gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Travis can get on you for the multiplayer aspect, especially once Battlefield and Halo launch. But we'll come back to that. We've got plenty of time in the future. But Bobby, man, great to I know we've chatted for a while. Great to finally do a show with you. Obviously, we'll keep talking to collaborate more in the future. But thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here. It's been good. I mean, you guys put out quality work. It's probably the reason why everyone loves you guys. You guys have quality work, good people. These things count. These are the biggest things to bring people in, right? Is just having a community, and you guys have a really good community.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate that very much. Thank you. So, Bobby, I feel the same way about you. It's I was talking to Dan actually just a couple days ago when I said you were coming on the show, and Console Creatures and great site, good dude, and just appreciate. I think sites like ours need to support each other, right? We talk about all that all the time, and promote positivity in the gaming community, which I preach about nearly every week. So I'll stop. But Bobby, please call out where people can find you and the outlet, and anything else you'd like to shout out.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's just B Pashalidis, which is my name. I mean, I'm sure we could probably put it up somewhere, but
it'll be in the notes as well.
Perfect. Yeah, and then consolecreatures.com. So we're out of Toronto, Canada. We're an independent media outlet. We're a decade into, I guess, being active right now. I took over a couple of years ago, and I've just kind of been trying to update our direction and get with the times. We're mostly written word, but we're going to be doing a lot of bigger things in the future. Hopefully more podcasts, video, more community spotlight, because without the community, we're nothing, right? We want to focus more on the community and the games they're playing, and we're trying to bridge everything together.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Nice,
Very
man.
cool. Travis, anything to shout out, man?
Yeah, you can read my articles and reviews on IGN.com. Also a very small independent outlet.
Stop
No,
it.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Just put a link to Season Gaming in
never
those
heard of
for us.
Yeah.
Never heard of them.
And I reviewed a game last week, Chris Tales, a love letter to JRPG, self-proclaimed. You can read my review or watch the video on YouTube or that sort of thing. You can also follow me on Twitter at TyGuyTravis, and I also do other shows like The Last Word with Cog and Ebontis and Fireteam Chat. Old episodes, because that show doesn't really run anymore, but we might do more episodes in the future. But I do a lot of stuff, so follow me on Twitter. It's the best way to find out what I'm doing and read my articles. So
Excellent. Dan.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here
give us your PO box, old man. Where do we mail you?
You can find me here every Sunday. at 10 Central on Season Gaming. And then if you're lucky enough to find me on Twitter, good luck. I don't put that out there very much. I talk to enough people.
Fair enough. Guys, anyone listening, like I said, feedback on anything with the show we're taking to heart. So please feel free to reach out. You can always DM me, email me. You can leave a comment, anything like that. But
Pager.
Just what?
Pager.
Pager.
Voice.
I'm still the pager supporter, BlackBerry. You know.
How do we find you on Grindr? What's your username?
But no, sincerely, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming out and joining us. Hope to see you here every Sunday going forward. If you join us live, if you're listening afterwards, thank you as always. So that was Bitcast 163, and we're going to go ahead and close out. Thanks again. We'll see you next Sunday.